Good morning and welcome to today's Back to Basics show. I'm Rico Burton and I volunteer with AARP Arizona and I'm your host. AARP is the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. And with a nationwide presence, AARP strengthens communities and advocates for what matters most to more than 100 million Americans, 50 plus, and their families. This includes health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. AARP also produces the nation's largest circulation publications, AARP the magazine and AARP Bulletin. In the months of April and May, we're going to leverage communications and marketing to position AARP as a wise friend with resources to help consumers spot and avoid scams and seek support as a fierce defender that advocates for better protections on consumers' behalf. Areas of focus include gift card payment scams, fraud involving cryptocurrency, and AI scams, which is artificial intelligence scams. Visit us at AARP, and the little link will come across the board for you, and we'll have your tools, tips, and resources for you. Today, we're with Coach Sherry Ann again. Hello, hello, hello. You're going to talk to us about health and happiness?
Yes, we are. And
Wow.
so back to what you were just, the announcement that you were giving, I just learned this morning, like with AI, they're now figuring out like they can use AI for voice and like creating a whole, like they could take my voice and like create a whole dialogue.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's interesting.
Absolutely, and not very good either. We don't want to let that happen. And for those of you joining us today, make sure that you put your comments and questions into the chat and we'll get to them. Say hello to us. And here we
Yes.
go, Coach.
Please do. Yes. So health and happiness, and how are they connected? They're very bi-directional. And there's been a slew of studies done, and they're really trying to incorporate this into the healthcare system of having doctors talking to their patients, before they end up in a healthcare, in a health situation, and they're saying that 80% of visits to your primary doctor are due to are because of they're continuously exacerbated by just unmanaged stress. And so, which stress can lead to unhappiness. And so there's things that we can do at home and to help with creating that happiness. And so, because they are very, very connected, because studies have shown that people that are happy tend to exercise more, which of course we all know is going to lower your risk of heart disease, chronic illnesses, it's going to lower your blood pressure, decrease your chances of a stroke. So, yes, so happier people tend to exercise more, which we all, like I said, know that's a need for us to do. And like I've said before in the shows before, it doesn't have to be a ton of exercise. At minimum, I'd like to see people move 30 minutes 5 times a week. And that if you can't do 30 minutes straight, you can break it up into two 15-minute increments. And that's really very, very manageable. Wouldn't you say, Lady B?
Absolutely. We're going to do that anyway. I think going around the house and going out to pick up the mail, and there's a lot of things we can do, but you're talking about being very deliberate with that 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're going to get in exercises, but if you want to do it with gardening around your house, you can be very deliberate with that, or cleaning your house. But yeah, you're going to get in if you park far away from the door when you go to the grocery store. That's really good. If you try to use the stairs instead of the elevator, that's excellent. But yeah, be very, very intentional, and it can be anywhere from walking to running if you're able to run, riding a bike, dancing. If you're into pickleball, which seems to be super crazy popular right now everywhere, but especially here in Arizona, so many tennis facilities are being converted to pickleball facilities. Uh, but yeah, whatever it is, but be very, very intentional with it. Definitely. But a significant, there's just a lot of research has just shown. And so it's when you are not happy and you are stressed, studies have shown that it's going to suppress your immune response. And why that is still left to be determined. But it is proven that people that are stressed, have high anxiety, are angry, have a lot of fear, their immune response is much more suppressed. And people that are happier have a higher antibody response to either when they're getting a vaccine or when they come in contact with something. Their response is much more robust. It doesn't mean that they're not going to get sick. It just means that they're going to move through it much quicker than somebody that's not happy. So it's going to help your immune response because we're being bombarded with stuff all the time. I mean, especially right now with our seasonal change here and everywhere actually, but we're in high bloom right now where everything is kind of like wakening up elsewhere. Snow is kind of dissipating, and but here we're in high bloom, so there's a lot of sage, there's a lot of stuff and dust and the pollen in the air, so there's a lot of sniffles going around here. And even though that's pollen related, that still creates an immune response in your body. So being happier is going to help you stave off those things much better. Much better. Yeah. So just remember that when you're stressed and you're feeling angry or fearful, it's just going to weaken that immune response. And I know that you have yourself on mute, Lady B, and you're just coming off of mute every once in a while because she has a nice little chirp in her background. It makes
It's
me
all my secret. Oh my gosh. That wasn't very nice.
I love it though. But if you're joining us, please let us know where you're joining from. But if you're from like Colorado or the mountains, it'll sound like a pika. There's these little animals that live in the mountains, and they're called pikas. And how they talk to each other is the exact sound that a smoke detector does. And so it makes me think that I'm in the mountains listening to a pika.
All right, now that she's put me on blast, you all, I have a fire alarm detector that needs a battery, and I'll get to it when I get a ladder. Thank you very much. All right.
I love it though, because it does. I totally thought of the pika, and it makes me think I'm in the mountains. So,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
so another huge benefit of being connected, I mean, with being happy and having good health, is people that are happier tend to be more socially connected. And in a few months, we'll be talking about social connection, how to create that, the importance of it. It's one of the biggest things to stave off dementia. So happier people tend to be just more connected, and it's mainly because they're getting that their soul is being fed from being with other people, and they're giving themselves to other people. So be socially connected. It's really important.
So then my question is, and I probably should have asked this earlier, is would you give us a definition of happiness?
I think that is very personal, and like my definition of happiness, because it can be a wide gamut of things that brings you happiness. Happiness for me is getting up in the morning and knowing that I have healthy children, like first and foremost, and because they're my world. I have three of them, and once I became a mom, that was my sole purpose, and everything else just kind of fills in around that. So I am very, very grateful that I have healthy children, happy children. And then for myself, that I have health, that I have good health, and I'm able to move my body every day and do the things that I enjoy doing. And then I'm very fulfilled in serving other people. I love being a servant leader, and it's one that does fill my soul and fill my cup. So that to me is my triad of happiness. And
Okay.
so for everyone, it's a little different. And I would say what brings you happiness, but the definition of happiness, I would assume that it would, if you were to look it up in the dictionary, it'd be interesting to see what it says actually. But I think it's feeling fulfilled and having joy and laughter. What would you say?
Oh, several things. For me, happiness is being content where I am on the way to where I'm going,
Mm.
being content with who I am on the way to who I'm becoming, and be finding that peace in the midst of chaos when things are going awry around me. Even there's a certain kind of happiness, and that's different than joy to me, but
Mhm.
there's something that's kind of wonderful about being at peace even when things around me are not going well, and knowing even that, again, loving who I am on the way to who I'm becoming, and being content where I am on the way to where I'm going. So many people, when I get the next job or when I move there or when I do this, what about now? And so I think that can bring a lot of stress too. So that's one
Mhm.
of the reasons that I offer that. And I saw your comment, Sandy. It's not you, it's me with my little Sandy. She thought it was her. Sandy Hiskey. She went upstairs running to see if it was hers. No, it's mine. Sorry, you guys.
I love it because Sandy, that's exactly what when I first heard it, I was like, wait, that's not in my house. So it's great. I love it. It's bringing, see, we're bringing laughter and joy. So it's funny.
Yes. How about that? How about that?
And it's been proven too that happier people are not only said more connected, but they eat more nutritionally rich foods. And and so that's a nice little triad that you have there. You're socially connected, you're eating better, you're exercising, which means you probably also sleep better. This all plays into the role of just being happy and content. And so it's go ahead.
Let me be clear. You're saying that there's research that says that when you're happier, you eat better.
Yeah.
So, and that
Yep.
means you eat healthier foods. So, what about some folk that eat comfort food, or and some of that food isn't the greatest for you, but you feel good when you eat it or better. Is that just a placeholder for a different time, or what?
Well, comfort food doesn't necessarily have to be less nutrient dense.
Okay.
So comfort food can be nutrient dense. But people that are happier tend to eat just healthier. They're not overeating because people that are depressed have a tendency to eat for comfort. And so then they're overeating, and so but comfort food can be nutritious. It
Okay.
doesn't have to be less
Okay.
nutrient dense.
That's nice to hear. I'm not onto that Mediterranean diet that you were talking to us about last time, not yet. And interestingly, I heard so much more about it after the show that you did with that. And I thought, wow, there must be something to this. And I really haven't looked into it much, but I kept hearing it over and over again. And for those of you who are here, we'd love for you guys to let us know, what is your definition of happiness? As Coach Sherry Ann gives us some tips about how the health goes together with happiness, that might be beneficial for you too. All right, Coach.
Absolutely. Well, and to the Mediterranean diet thing, I do believe that how our brains work is you've actually heard it, and it was the timing of being exposed to it with our conversation that then all of a sudden when it came into your realm again, you're like, oh. And then so it's all things are always there. It's just a matter of, you know, what triggers the subconscious to go, hey, let's pay attention to that now. But it's a good it's a fun way of eating to entertain. I hate using the word diet, but it's a way of eating, is what it is. So back to health and happiness. So I am fully aware that there are some people probably tuning into this, or maybe not tuning into this, and you know of them that struggle with happiness, and it is a real thing. There are people out there that just are like, I'm struggling with it, and hopefully you're getting help and you're seeking help from your doctor or a therapist or somebody that can help you find out what is happening that for you to struggle with finding happiness, because everyone should experience and find happiness, and it can be challenging. So I'm here to give you some tips to start incorporating to create good habits to happiness, and because you can cultivate happiness in your life. And if you're around people that are struggling with happiness, I encourage you to help them cultivate happiness. Be a catalyst for them, and maybe go through these tips with them, these exercises. And the first one I do on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times throughout the day, and that is practice gratitude. And it to the point to where some people are like, why are you always so happy? And I'm like, it's not about being happy. It's more about, for me, I practicing gratitude. And I, throughout the day and throughout my life, and when I do gratitude, I identify the things that bring me joy. I catalog them, and then I take the time to reflect on them. So it's important to practice gratitude, and I do it in the evenings when I'm in it. I do it purposefully so that I sleep well. And so I think about the things that I'm grateful for that day and overarching in my life. And so I reflect on those, and it helps me sleep so much better. But I'll even do it throughout the day. If I'm having a moment where I'm driving my car and I'm irritated with some of the drivers on the road, I think, okay, I'm really happy I'm actually in a car and I'm able to get to point B from point A. And I really just, and I'll go through like a breathing exercise and practice gratitude for just being able to transport myself. Because I have a brother that can't do that. He has to rely on family or public transportation because he's disabled. So when I'm frustrated driving my car, I immediately think, I'm grateful that I have the ability to do this. I'm grateful that I have the ability to own a car, because there are people out there that can't. So practicing gratitude is one thing that you can really start doing to incorporate good, healthy habits.
I like what Bruce Sanders says here. Happiness is a triploid of body, soul, and spirit that's being connected to creator, family, and self. So there's some
Mm,
people here with some interesting ideas about what goes on with that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, absolutely. And so with gratitude, if you aren't used to practicing gratitude, I'll encourage you to get a journal and start writing down the things that you identify that do bring you joy and start cataloging them so that you can reflect back on them. Having a gratitude journal is not only beautiful for yourself, but it's also a nice lasting legacy that you can leave behind and leave it to your children if you have children or good friends. They can look back and see all the things that you are grateful for that you also contributed to. So having a gratitude journal is really actually a fun thing to do, and it's very helpful.
I agree. I agree. I'm always mindful about little things. Little things mean a lot to me. Even this next breath that I'm taking, I don't take it for granted. I just don't. Some
Yeah.
people need oxygen, and it's a blessing that they can get it when they need it. And
Hmm.
and just the little things to be able to get up and move and do what I need to do, to hear, to see, to whatever the it is.
Hmm.
And I'm grateful for all of it.
Hmm. Yes. So the next tip is managing desire. Desire is totally natural. We need it because it is a driver for us. But if you over focus on your desires, it's going to leave you feeling dissatisfied, unfulfilled, and unhappy. So with managing your desires, and how I started doing this with my children is we would recognize wants versus needs. And so we would start with that. And then within the needs, we made sure those were definitely things that you desire and you go for and you achieve. And then the wants, we think about like, okay, so are we over going to focus on this want? Is this want actually attainable? What are we getting out of it? What's the trade off for it? And we start managing those desires, those wants. And because if you're not careful, if you're always desiring, the next best thing, then you're not going to be fulfilled with what you currently have. So managing those desires is really, really, really very important.
I
It's
agree.
Yeah, so it's important to strive for the next thing that you want in life, but what is it going to give you when you get there? If once you're there, you're going to want the next thing, and so just really manage those.
I agree.
So the third one is taking care of yourself. This will bring you happiness. I promise, because no one's going to fill your cup first, so you got to fill it first. And that includes making sure you're getting a good sleep, making sure that you're getting in some exercise, and eating nutritious, rich foods. And so, and what happens is if you create these habits of those main things, sleeping, eating, and moving, then on the days that you have an off day, because we all have them, I even have them, everyone has them. If you have good habits, the off days don't completely derail you. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to show myself some grace. Today's an off day. I'm going to get up tomorrow and get right back at it. So create good habits so that you can allow yourself some grace to just be like, you know what? Today is just not happening. Because do you have days like that, Lady B, where you're just like, nah, today's not working out?
Well, I have days like that, and unfortunately, when those days usually come, I still have things to do.
Mhm.
And it's pressing past it
Yes.
that I think is where I find the happiness. And that's what I was talking about, finding peace even in the midst of the chaos. And sometimes that means being grateful. I don't feel like doing this today, but gosh, am I grateful that I have the ability to do it, that I have the
Mhm.
talent to do it, the knowledge to do it, the whatever. And because of all of those things, it takes me into my servant leader, which means that I have to do this. Sometimes it's not about me, it's for somebody else. And boy, oh boy, can that just, propel me into a different realm. And it's like, yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Hmm.
If I'm doing something for somebody else, it's always easier to do it for 100%. But that's in our nature. That's how we are, you and I. And so, and there's a lot of people out there, and thank goodness there are, because
Yes.
we need servant leaders like that. The next tip is to practice mindfulness. And this kind of goes hand in hand with gratitude, but it's a little deeper, and it goes to what you were talking about. And when I was kind of smiling and chuckling when you were talking earlier, Lady B, it's really about staying present. And when you're present to what is really occurring, it gives you a sense of calm, like amidst the chaos. And when you have that sense of calm and inner peace, you're able to really respond to situations versus reacting. And it really is a beautiful feeling. When I finally got to that space raising my children, it was so lovely because I could just really be present to what the reality of what was going on, and I wasn't reacting to them. Because I think that as parents sometimes we're so stressed and we find ourselves yelling at our children, and we're like, "Oh, why did I do that?" I don't feel good. They don't feel good. And I went through phases like that parenting, but when I really got clear on mindfulness and being present to why they were reacting the way they are reacting, and sometimes it's just a mirror of me, and how humbling that was. It provided me the opportunity to respond versus react. And and that carries over into every area of our life. Like when I'm driving and I get upset with drivers, and I'm like, I don't react, I'm just responding. I'm like, okay, they clearly weren't paying attention. They're busy. So, and I don't get mad anymore or upset. And so being present to what is happening does provide you an opportunity to just have some inner peace and stay calm. And so practicing mindfulness, and I've done talks on this before, some people, in order to create that as a practice for you to be for it to be a habit, you might have to carve out time, during your day, whether it's the morning or the evening, same time as like you're doing your journaling of gratitude, but just be present with their thoughts, kind of let your thoughts come and go and don't judge them. We have a tendency to judge our thoughts, and that makes us judgy against other people and not being present to what really is happening. Just so practicing mindfulness does take time, and it is an art that you should work on because it's really something that will bring you a lot of peace.
I agree. And mindfulness is important. It will help. And there are courses on it. You can go to the internet and find out different ways to help you be more mindful. But part of being mindful for me that I have learned is being careful about what I allow in my mind. That too is part of our happiness. The negative thoughts that we let come into our head and heart at any given time can thwart our happiness. And to be intentional about being happy. I see that Sandy Newman put in the chat that happiness for her, she's learned that it's a choice that we make every day. I choose to be happy, in spite of, maybe because of, right? And that is part of it. And so when all the other things that will come your way, and things will come, I'm still going to decide that in spite of it, or sometimes even because of it, I'm going to remain at peace and have a sense of happiness.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. It is a choice for sure. So the last tip kind of ties in with what you were saying earlier, too. And it's compete with yourself, not with others. Focusing on others leads to envious. feelings of inadequacy, being anxious, and so if you're focused on being the best version of you, where you're at right now and where you're going, and just being 1% better tomorrow than you were today in whatever area that you want to work on, it will bring you so much joy. Because if you're constantly looking at your neighbor or somebody else at work or it's you're always going to be challenged with where you're at. So if you just focus on competing with yourself, it will bring you so much more joy than looking at others.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. You, my personal mantra and motto is, and it's a Burtonism, if you will, and I say, you take you with you wherever you go. So be the best you that you can be.
Hmm.
Nobody does Lady B like Lady B does Lady B.
Right.
I can't be Coach Sherry Ann, but I can sure enough be a doggone good me, right? And that's where I think we need to, like you say, only compete with yourself. The comparison, I don't need to compare myself to anybody else. We are unique, wonderfully made, all of those things. And I think that that's very important for us to remember. Doesn't mean that
Hmm.
we can't look at somebody else and be happy for them, encourage and even learn from that. I say, that might want to try that. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm saying just still in your own life, do you and
Yep.
do that the best way you can.
Yep. 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 So if you kind of follow those 5 tips, to help you cultivate happiness, it'll become such an easy habit for you that you will be choosing happiness every day. And if you're having an off day or an off moment, whatever, you can do these one time, I call them one time boosters, one time happiness boosters. And it's find a funny movie that you want to go watch or go seek out, something that does bring you joy, or makes you laugh, because I love funny movies. I love comedy. Or sometimes just practicing a random act of kindness that will give you a boost of happiness when you do that, because when you see the other person's face, or you may not even see the person's face, but you just do a random act of kindness, it'll make you feel so good because you'll know you brought joy to that person, and that will immediately have you feel joy. So you can do these I call one-time boosters. So if you're just struggling, go do a random act of kindness or carve out 2 hours and go watch a funny movie.
All of that. And, have your affirmations that are
Mm,
important to you and that can help lift your spirits and lift you up. Remind yourself about who you are. We're all brilliant. We're here for a reason. And
mhm.
that alone, I think, should make us happy on some level, right? Hmm.
If you have never done this, it's a fun exercise. Ask your 5 closest people, and they can be family members or coworkers, a boss, whatever, but ask them the top 3 qualities that they love in you and have them tell you. And it's a beautiful exercise because it's a humbling exercise. Just like, wow, and but do it. If you've never done it, it's fun. And the people that you're asking, if they're really close to you, which they should be, they're gonna love it. They're just gonna gush all over you. And so it's if you've never done it, I encourage you to do it.
That's a nice saying. And maybe you can, do it for somebody else. You talk about a random act of kindness. Search out 2 or 3 people that you care about and that you maybe even that you work with that need to be lifted up every now and then. And just tell them, boy, I really admire that you come to work on time every day. I notice that about you. And you always seem to have a smile for people. You don't know what our little comments will do for other people either. And that is just as rewarding sometimes for us too. It can lift us up and
Yep.
make us happier. So I agree with all of this. We
Yeah.
have to find what's going to be good for us and work for us in terms of our joy too.
Yes.
Well, Coach, this has been very enlightening. We really appreciate the 5 tips that you've given us. Thank you all that joined us today for your comments, for your definitions. And we are just so grateful. There's some gratitude that you have been with us today and every time that we come here. Make sure you check out the website and take a look at some of the back issues that we've done and get the tips and things from the day. If you have additional questions, put them in the chat. Coach Sherry Ann will get back to you even after we're done. We look forward to seeing you next month. What are we going to talk about? Do you know yet, Coach?
Yes, we're going to be talking about the importance of sleep, what happens when we sleep with our bodies and our brains, and why it's important, because it's one thing that people just take for granted.
Wonderful. Well, we hope that you have a wonderful day. Go out there, ladies and gents, and be happy and healthy. Take care. God bless.